Hello everyone, my name is 3X-Ray Kilo, or Casper if you'd like to know the real name, and I'm an Airbus A320 type-rated first officer flying this airplane for a European-based airline in real life. I'm also a huge flight simulation enthusiast. I've been doing flight simulator for way longer than I've been flying in real life. I want to say it's been roughly 8 to 10 years now, and flight sim is really what set me on this path to become a pilot. Now, I also love teaching and instructing and just sharing knowledge, and this is exactly where this channel is coming from. I want to share with you some tips and guidelines, tutorials on how to operate this airplane in your desktop simulator to make the experience as realistic as possible and as close as what we do in the real aircraft. Don't mind a little bit of a longer introduction today, but since this is the very first video on this channel, I thought it's in order to just introduce myself properly. Thank you very much and enjoy the video, guys. So, for today's subject, we have glide slope interception from above. In principle, it's a simple procedure, meaning it doesn't have that many steps. It's only a few of them. They are, however, quite important, and more importantly, you're going to be using that procedure in highly dynamic situations. It was designed for a case where you find yourself established on localizer, cleared for approach, but you're on top of the glide path. You have too much energy that you have to burn. Now, what a lot of people would do automatically in Flight Simulator is just disconnect the autopilot. But this is not exactly the easiest way to manage it. It might seem like that's the case, but after this video, hopefully, you'll have another solution. Now, why is autopilot not the default thing to do here? I mean, disconnecting it. It's simply because hand flying the airplane is not hard. What's hard is reserving as much mental capacity for other tasks and maintaining as high situational awareness as possible. But hand flying a hot and high approach is gonna take a lot of your brain power, that cognitive capacity that you have, and put it into hand flying the airplane. Something that the autopilot is perfectly capable of doing as long as you know how to make that happen. So the purpose of this video is for me to show you how to make that happen. How to make the autopilot do its job correctly and allow you to fly a nice and stable approach. Hopefully by the end of the video you're going to have so much confidence in your flight path management skills with automation that you're never going to think about disconnecting the autopilot again instinctively, but instead you're just going to be able to perform these items in a blink of an eye, fly a beautiful, safe and stable approach while having all the time and brain power to analyze the situation from other angles. Now, if you will find this video at the end as something helpful, I would highly appreciate some kind of a comment, maybe a like or a sub. That's gonna be of great motivation to keep recording these videos, and it's gonna help grow this channel. Guys, I think that covers it for the initial part. We'll start now with the procedure itself. Then I'm gonna display some approaches for you to cover some of the threat and error management and the correct and incorrect actions to do. Let's get into it. So, glide slope interception from above procedure. It's a standard operating procedure. Here are the items that we have to do with a little bit of an explanation. The very first thing that pilot flying is responsible for here is to verify that the approach mode is armed on the FCU and FMA as well. This is crucial because if it's not, the aircraft is not going to have a glide slope mode armed. That means descending in high rate with FCU altitude set above the aircraft. We're going to get to that in a second, but basically you don't have an altitude to capture here. Technically, the aircraft could just descend with autopilot on into the ground. We cannot let that happen. We have to have a vertical mode standing by, ready to take over. That's why this is so important. Then it's localizer engaged, crucial mode. Without it, you cannot have a glide slope engaged. Going back to the first problem, essentially. Those are the two first most important items. The third one, you have to set your FCU altitude to something above the aircraft. This is what I mentioned earlier there. If you don't do that, there is a high risk that the aircraft is simply going to engage an alt-star mode altitude capture because you'll be descending with higher rate. That is going to cause alt-star to engage sooner, potentially leading to level off and you being unable to intercept the glide path. So again, set the FC altitude above the present aircraft altitude. And the fourth item, once all of this is done, you go to vertical speed mode, you pull and set initially -1500. If you're quite high, you can even go with -2000 feet per minute, but I wouldn't go beyond that. The reason is, if you're gear down, flaps 2, 2,000 feet per minute typically should result in the aircraft maintaining its speed, which is what you want because you're close to an airport, to landing. You don't want the aircraft accelerating. Going beyond 2,000 could potentially result in the airplane gaining speed, and we don't want to see that. Now, fifth part, once the aircraft captures the glide path, which is indicated to you on FMA by glide slope star, this is where you put the missed approach altitude. So, before, when you put it above the aircraft altitude, you can set it to missed approach altitude, but what I recommend is you just spin it to the right and set something above the present aircraft altitude. It doesn't matter what it is as long as it's on top of you. And then on glide slope star, verify that you set the missed approach or set it at that point. Just connect glide slope star to the missed approach altitude in your head. That's going to work out perfectly, and it applies for normal ILS approach and for glide slope interception from above. This is going to fix all the problems. Those are the steps of the procedure. I've also mentioned by now that you're supposed to be in flaps 2 gear down, so keep that in mind when you're seeing glide slope interception from above coming. Don't waste time and configure the airplane. Lose as much speed as you can before the descent starts, before you get that approach clearance. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. Now, the procedure also allows for you to use spoilers. However, if you use spoilers together with flaps 2 and the Airbus A320 family, you can introduce a lot of unwanted oscillations and roll. So keep that in mind. This is going to be fairly unpleasant, but it is allowed if the aircraft is accelerating because you're very heavy and you have a lot of tailwind. Go for it, guys. If it's going to help, it's going to help. Use the spoilers. They're meant to be used. So this about summarizes the procedure. I would like to highlight especially the first 2 points, the approach mode as well as the localizer. Those are the 2 most critical ones, but also setting the missed approach altitude on glide slope star. This is where most threats and errors are going to come from, those 3 steps. So don't skip those. I suggest you write it down. I'll also put it on the screen during this section so you can make a note of it and really keep those in mind. What you're seeing right now is this typical case of ATC clearing us for a localizer approach initially. To intercept the localizer. Localizer is already engaged, as you see in the 3rd column of the FMA. Localizer is green. We see that this is definitely going to be a glide slope interception from above. So we just configured the airplane into flaps 2, which is what we're gonna need anyways. And after that, we're just letting the speed decay. This is gonna help us to maintain a high rate of descent when we are ready to intercept the glide slope. Now we're just gonna have to wait for the clearance, which I'm expecting to come any second. There it is. So we push the approach push button, cut free single, glide slope blue, and we go gear down. Once the gear is down, we select the higher altitude on the FCU and vertical speed minus 2000. Although we're quite significantly on top of the glide path and fairly close to the airport, this should allow us to fly a stabilized approach. We're just doing our normal flows, arming the spoilers, setting the lights, and watching the airplane recapture the glide slope. There it is, glide slope star. Missed approach altitude is already set. It's 6,000 feet in case of this approach, so nothing else to do there. We continue extending the flaps. We have now flaps full. We have now also the option to complete landing checklist, TK memo, landing no blue, landing checklist completed. Glide slope engages fully, and that's it. Stable approach altitude here is 2,500 feet. As you can see, we've managed to stabilize the approach, now also on the speed with some 300 feet of margin. Fairly nice, fairly safe. Required just a little bit of a quick action, but worked all together nicely. We're gonna make a go-around from this approach. We're not gonna land, because I want to demonstrate some other approaches for you as well, but this is essentially how to do it in case you're already on localizer. What I want you to take away from this clip is that if the ATC is not letting you make the approach, intercept the glide path, also go for flaps. Start reducing speed. Use that time to reduce the amount of energy you have by as much as possible. Okay, let's go. Go around flaps, Mentoga, SRS, SNAF, AP1 out of Rust Blue. Positive climb, gear up. Gear comes up, and 6,000 feet is confirmed. Men go around soft. Okay, guys, that was the very first glide slope interception from above I had for you. That one went fairly quickly, but I hope you've managed to catch the most important items. We forgot to arm the second autopilot there, but other than that, this one was fairly nicely managed. So, gents, in this clip, we're gonna have an example of a pilot being me, who does realize quite early we're headed into glide slope interception from above. ATC kept us high and fast. We have a lot of excess energy to bleed. Let's go. Flaps 1, you're down. I've set the 11,000 feet very, very early, prematurely here. We'll even configure into flaps 2. And let's say now that ATC gave me the clearance to descend 4,000 feet and clear ToLiss approach runway 15. So we have vertical speed minus 2,000. FCU altitude is already well below the present position, so all there is the most important item. Arming the approach modes, which was never done. Let's say we got caught up in a high workload situation and we simply forgot it. Well, this creates a very serious problem that we've discussed before, and it's that the aircraft has nothing to capture anymore. Yes, it's approaching the glide path, but it doesn't matter because it's not armed, as you can see there, and it's shortly about to cross it. And once it does, the only thing left is the ground. There is no altitude to capture, there is nothing. So the aircraft will simply continue until the ground. That is until the pilot realizes the mistake and corrects. Because other than that, this is a good glide slope interception from above. Energy levels are good. We should have recaptured the glide path here. That's fairly early, to be honest, but we started it very, very soon. But again, the most important item here is missing, being the localizer plus the approach. So the only way to rectify it, I would say, is just push the level off. Because we now have to intercept the glide slope from below. So the crew realizes this, and we have glide slope blue, lock, cat free dual AP1 plus 2, and push the level off, vertical speed 0. The aircraft will level off now, and maintain VS 0 until it captures the glide path. That saves the day, however, it could have still resulted in a dangerous proximity to terrain, undue toss alert, and also controlled flight into terrain if it was not corrected on time. On top of that, we've busted a constraint because on the final approach point we had a constraint of 4,000 feet, and we went to 3,400 at the lowest, which is also below MSA and so on and so forth. Yes, we had visual contact with terrain, but we did not respect the procedure we were cleared for. So it's quite important, and I really want to emphasize for you the importance of verifying that the approach modes are armed and engaged in the case of localizer. Anyhow, now we recaptured the glide path from below. We have GS, 6,000 feet was correctly set for missed approach. The only thing left to do is configure the airplane for landing into the final config, run the checklist, and that's it. And then maybe some explanations to do, but that's a story for another day. So, we can go flaps 3, speed check, flaps 3, and very shortly, we're gonna finish the config. Flaps full, speed check, flaps full, and landing checklist, ECAM memo, landing no blue. Now we're fully stabilized, we can continue to land, and I would just like to emphasize again, approach modes and localizer. So, in the introduction part of the procedure, when we were just going through the steps that you have to accomplish, we were discussing that you have to set a missed approach altitude whenever you see glide slope start, because you are setting the FCU to something random, let's say. In this case, the crew set it to 7,000 feet. As you can see, we're already establishing the interception from above. We're maintaining minus 2,000 feet per minute, 180 knots almost. We're slightly fast, but it's manageable. And glide slope is armed, localizer is engaged, everything is great. Let's see how this situation plays out. I mean, you can already tell by the context that we're not gonna change the missed approach altitude, and probably there might be a go around. So we are slowly approaching the glide slope. Just to help the aircraft reduce the speed a little bit, we go flaps 3 and rate 1500, because we are slowly approaching our stabilization gate, and we have to be stable on the speed as well. Quick reminder to the cabin to take their seats. There they go. Glide slope star. And now the pilot flying is responsible for setting the missed approach altitude, but he didn't. The crew doesn't notice that, and they just continue to land. Glide slope, flaps full, speed checked, flaps full, landing checklist, ECAM memo, landing no blue. Now, besides the speed, the approach is fully stable. If the aircraft decelerates nicely to V approach plus 10, in some cases 20, the approach can be continued safely to land and is considered as stabilized. Let's see if the crew manages to achieve that. Well, crew is actually me. Okay, I would say this is within stabilization criteria. I cannot exactly see, but looks more or less okay. But we're still gonna make a go around. So, go around flaps, Mentoga, SRS, nav, AP1, out of Rust blue, and climb blue. Positive climb, gear up, gear up. And by the way, in go around flow, you're also supposed to confirm the missed approach altitude, but let's say the crew forgot that part. And nobody actually did. So, thrust climb, open climb, alt blue, out of rust. Now we can start cleaning up the flaps. We just have to wait for the speed to be above F speed and positive trend. There it comes slowly. I typically like to wait a little bit. I let it go a little bit more above F speed. Flaps 1, speed check, flaps 1. During go around, you go from flaps 3 to flaps 1 immediately. I mean, if it was flaps full. If you did flaps 3 landing and you say go around flaps, you set flaps 2 first. As you can see, even during the go around, you can use autopilot and the workload is so easy to manage. Nothing really is happening right now. Alright, crossing F speed, we can fully configure the airplane. Flap 0, speed check, flap 0. And now we have to divert our attention, instead of monitoring the missed approach, to quickly doing the flow, cleaning up the spoilers, the lights, and so on and so forth. And by the time we're back to even think about anything, the airplane is already crossing 5,600 feet. Even if we noticed now, it's too late. Speed out star. It's certainly going to be a bust. There it is, 6,000. Crew noticed. I mean, me noticed. Exactly crossing 6,000 feet. So I went vertical speed 0 again to try to arrest that climb rate, but I still overclimbed the missed approach altitude by 400 feet. Is it dangerous? There are things out there to help in this type of situations to avoid a collision with other traffic and so on and so forth. But you should never do this. You should always try to respect all the limits and all the procedural constraints. So yeah, it is not the safest flying we see here. Alt star. And this is why setting the missed approach altitude at glide slope star is so important. Okay, so we've covered some of the most typical threat and error situations. The missed approach altitude, the having the approach armed, as well as localizer engaged. I forgot to record a video clip of one more, which happens to a lot of people in real life as well, which is when they set a higher altitude on the FCU, some people just instinctively pull it, which means the aircraft goes into open climb. If that happens to you, please don't disconnect the autopilot, just accept it happened, make a go around, come again. It's better than rushing an approach. And here we are coming in a case, again, Salzburg, ATC just kept us very, very high on the speed as well, and we already see this is gonna be glide slope from above. We're configuring as quickly as we can an open descent, not to overspeed the flaps as well, because we are close to limiting speeds. We have open descent, lock star, cut free dual AP1 plus 2. And there comes the gear down. FCU altitude above the aircraft's altitude is set. Vertical speed minus 2,000. And we do the flow related to the gear down. And now we just wait for the autopilot to help us manage the situation. Look. So imagine here, I don't know, we got a significant shortcut, and on top of that ATC kept like, can happen. There are some airports notorious for it. For example, Valencia. I mean, in Valencia, the ATC is not gonna force you to take a shortcut. And please remember also, whenever you fly in VATSI and the ATC offers you a shortcut which results in a rushed approach, just don't take it. Say enabled, it's always an option. But if you can quickly evaluate that you can actually do it, then yeah, you can take it. You can do glide slope from above if needed. But keep in mind, pilot is not obligated to accept a shortcut, a significant shortcut. You can just say enable, or we need another 10 truck miles or something like that. You have a lot of options there. Also, I forgot to mention before, but if you are already with flaps 2 gear down and you need to decelerate quicker or descended to 2000 feet per minute, but aircraft is accelerating, you can use spoilers. But if you do, in the real aircraft you'd have a bit of a roll oscillation. Flaps 2 plus spoiler is not very nice. Glide slope. And on glide slope, storm mist approach altitude is set, 6000 feet. Very nice. This is now a very nice stable approach. Capture the glide slope early enough to configure the airplane for landing and have a stable and safe approach. Flaps full, speed check, flaps full. By the way, if I miss a call out here or there, I'm sorry guys. I'm recording this in the audio is recorded afterwards. So I'm talking a lot, trying to walk you through the procedure, and I might miss an operational call out. But if you'd like to see all of these call outs correctly set and in correct sequence of events, I invite you to my Twitch. We do a bit of a live flying there where it's a bit easier. Alright, so landing checklist, TICA memo, landing no blue, landing checklist completed. Still 300 feet to go roughly from the stabilization gate. Happy day. It turned out to be even a bit earlier stable approach, but this is what we wanted to see. The stabilization gate is a limit, it's not a target. So if you are stabilized 200 feet earlier, that's perfect. It means we had a safety margin in case something doesn't go as expected. And we've managed this glide slope interception from above fairly nicely, even with a little bit of tailwind and at higher elevation airport, that is Salzburg. If you have tailwind or high elevation, these things will make it harder for you to recapture the glide path. Stabilized. Alright, this is the last approach, so on this one we're gonna do a landing. We'll see how we do. Hopefully it's not gonna be too bad. And after this approach, we'll just vacate the runway and finish the video. And still a little bit of that tailwind, but it's not too bad. 2 knots is not serious. The aircraft can take a little bit more. Depending on the aircraft variant, you'll be limited by either 10 or 15 knots of tailwind, so 2 knots is not really an issue. But if you're significantly above the profile, it can be. It can be. But in this case, we acted quickly and it was good. Land.
300.
Autopilot off. Cut 1.
Minimum.
Continue.
200. 100.
We're gonna prioritize the glide slope indication over Papi here.
50.
And we have to
40,
re-establish on the center line.
20. Retard. 10. 5.
And we have spoilers, reverse green, manual braking. $70 knots. By the way, another thing that I've been told by some of my stream viewers, they always thought that you had to close reversers by 70 knots. That's not actually the case. You have to make sure that they are idle. So you can use the idle reverse all the way until vacating the runway / taxi speed. Well, max reverse until 70. Okay, just with a touch of manual braking, we're gonna take the second to last exit here on runway 15 in Salzburg. We're gonna clean up the aircraft, happy with our approach. It was at the end stable. Our safety department would be happy with us. We didn't violate anything, and we delivered our passengers to the destination airport on this flight from Munich to Salzburg. Very nice. I'll just let the clip play and we'll basically clean the aircraft up after it stops. We're gonna just close with some final words and conclusions. So once we have the time to do it, we're just gonna disable the strobe lights, landing lights, takeoff light, and so on and so forth. I typically do it after I establish myself on a straight taxi line. It's just so much harder for me in the simulator. I don't know how you guys do it so nicely on the move. So there comes the spoilers, lights, that's PF drop, and then PM will kill weather radar, predictive wind shear, and clean up the flaps. Also transponder to standby. I mean TCAS. Alright guys, so that was it. Those were the glide slope interceptions from above. Excuse me, a little bit of an awkward cut there. Still learning the ropes of video editing. So yeah, we went through a couple of examples. We did 2 nice glide slope interceptions from above, and 2 which honestly could result in not so safe situations. And even if you correct them, they are already a little bit nasty. So watch out for those common errors being not aircraft not established on the localizer and approach not armed, not setting the correct missed approach altitude when the glide slope is reintercepted, and also don't ever pull open climb. But if you do, never continue that landing, please. Do yourself a favor, just go around, come back again. Nothing is gonna happen. Go arounds are fairly normal in real life, and they are expected from us whenever something happens. And it's expected that here and there you're gonna make a mistake. No shame in that. What is important is again how to rectify the problem, and in that case, the go round is the correct solution. So I hope the video was useful for you. I hope you'll feel very confident in doing this with autopilot. As you can see, it's a very controlled way of doing things. You don't accelerate the situation. You have a lot of time to process your energy and all the other things, do your checklist correctly, and really perform a nice, stable approach that would pass the benchmark, not just in a sim, but in real life as well. If the video was helpful, I will appreciate if you leave a like and a sub in the comment. This is gonna tremendously help with growing the channel. And I invite you in the future again for the next videos. It's gonna take me a little bit of time because my roster is fairly busy these days with summer flying, but sooner or later there is gonna be more because I greatly enjoyed the process. And if there are gonna be people who learn something from it, it's just going to motivate me even more. Lastly, for those of you interested in a bit of a live interaction, Twitch is in the description. The articles will be in the description as well. Although with those, I take forever to write them, I must admit. I don't spend as much time on them as I wish I did, but it's just so limited, my life with time. Anyhow, thank you so much for coming by, for checking this, and for supporting the channel. I wish you a wonderful day, and I encourage you to practice. On a final note, something I forgot to mention before, this will work with any airplane. I mean, any Airbus. It's going to work with A350, A340, 330, Phoenix, any builds, ToLiss, FS Labs. I just do it in ToLiss because it's so convenient to load the saved situations, so I don't have to record full circuits, because that will take forever. But you can practice in any type of airplane you want. I will just give you one piece of advice. Be careful with A319, especially Phoenix. Phoenix A319, very hard airplane to manage. Other than that, enjoy, guys. I hope you find it helpful, and I wish you a great day ahead.